Hey YouTube, I'm Kenneth Ryan.
I'm Linz Resop.
And we're back with another exciting episode of Fanfiction Friday. Today we are continuing where we left off in Star Wars The New Galaxy by Cloud 411. And where we left off was Chapter 25. A goal for this session is to go a little bit faster with the reading than we did last section. Because, oh boy, did that take us a while. We're still recording the same day as my throat being really awful. Just a little behind the scenes, so if I cough or sound weird, I'm still sick because it's the same day. And if you hear weird lozenge noises, it's because I'm trying my best. And I'm trying to deal with it, and I realized that maybe if I, was sucking on something designed to coat your throat, these voices wouldn't hurt as much. Anywho, we'll do what we always do. And Lindsay gets to read all the beginning exposition because all of her characters, again, are dead.
Yeah, my two new characters are dead. Okay. Salvador walked Chapter 25, followed the Sith Order. Great.
Ooh.
Good times. Salvador walked out of the cave, and into so it is a cave.
Yes.
And into the light of the setting sun. A cave with a random boulder and somehow...
Like, conveniently is just like a prison cave.
Yeah, just a random cave with only one entrance that you sealed up with the Force, and somehow your sister can't use the Force to get herself out of because of plot.
Apparently so.
He looked at the red-orange color of the sky. Out of all the days the sun sets, tonight it gives an ominous red glow. He smiled at the color and jumped off of the ledge he was standing on towards the waters below. He landed in his boat that he took over to the cave and turned the engine on. So it's a boat. So it's a cave.
On an island by New York.
On a lake or something.
Okay.
Just across the lake in a cliff, or maybe not.
Right.
Like high up on a cliff because he had to jump out of it and land in a boat. Okay. Location. Scene. Turn the engine on. He hit the throttle and took off towards New York to put his plan into action. He has a boat license.
Do you need one when you're the Sith?
I mean, I don't know, but he knows how to drive a boat. As he soared on the waters surrounding New York, the wind cutting its way through his hair, the wind blowing through his hair, Salvador's mind began to wander. Once he enacted his plan, he would be the most powerful Sith. Aren't you already? Pretty much. And would need someone almost as powerful as he is by his side. He would need someone who was smart, powerful, resourceful, cunning, and strong in the Force. He believed that he could change Stacy into that person with the right pushes in the right places. That
sounds weirdly sexual to me.
Yeah, he needs someone smart and resourceful by his side.
Ugh. Sister.
Yeah.
That's your sister.
Yeah. But it'd be kind of interesting if he did turn her to the Force, to the Sith, and then she joined, to the dark side, and then she joined him.
That would be interesting.
I kind of want them to just take over the world.
We'll see. This fic has been full of weird turns.
Yeah. He believed that he could change... Okay. Her mind was already thrown back by her learning of her brother's survival on that night 8 years ago. The death of Joe, and how much her brother had changed from the loving, caring person he was all those years ago. The Jedi have lied to her for over 8 years. Salvador could feel her anger towards them, even as he approached dock at the edge of the city. He could feel her from across the lake.
I guess.
/ ocean. I'm not sure what lakes are near New York City. Because I know it's just the kind of
Hudson River runs through the city. The ocean is where the Ellis Island is.
So it might be on an island. It's like a little island somewhere.
Maybe.
But he can still feel her from New York. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. He docked his boat and jumped off. He began his walk up the dock to the heavily active streets. He headed towards the apartment building that the other Siths were currently using as a makeshift base. As he got closer to the building, he started to gather up the dark side within himself. There are several possible ways his plan could backfire on him, but all he needed was one really good way that it would benefit this war in favor of the dark side. That's all he needed. So you're gonna benefit the war in the favor of the dark side by destroying the dark side and being the only person left, pretty much.
Yep.
Or maybe he's not gonna destroy them. But the chapter was the fall of the Sith Order, so...
You're right.
They can still be dark without being Sith, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Name change. Needed. As he walked up the steps to the door leading into the apartment building, he stopped and took a deep breath. He needed to make sure his mind was clear of all thought. He needed to focus on the here and now, or else he would die tonight. The sun was almost completely set. The night air was starting to settle in. A blanket of darkness started to swallow the city as the sun completed its daily routine and set behind the horizon. He opened up the door and stepped into the building. Yeah, so as the sun sets completely below the horizon is when he steps in. Why is his source of drama so...
Sith.
Sense of drama.
The Sith.
I know. Several Siths ran up to him. "Where are Travis and Mark?" they asked.
"Back at the hotel," Salvador yelled in response. "They're wounded. I couldn't carry them both back. Get as many Siths as you can and go and help them," he pleaded.
"There's 2 of them. Get as many Siths as you can and go help them." "Okay." "Right," the Sith replied. "You're an idiot." The Sith ran and returned with 10 others and took off out of the building to assist the already dead Travis and Mark. Salvador reached out with the dark side. There were 10 other Siths in the building. Wow, you managed to split them in half so you can fight 10 now and fight 10 later.
Wow.
Great. That worked out well for you. All low-level ones, except for Mary. She was the only one that could pose a problem. I was Mary, right?
Yes.
What did she sound like? I know Crystal was kind of like the southerny belle type.
You'll figure it out.
Mary. Not her. She might have been normal-ish. She was the only one that could pose a problem. He walked into the main room of the building. The room held 5 Siths, who immediately stood up to greet him as he entered. As he stood up, Salvador unclipped his weapon from his belt and held it tightly in his hand, because that doesn't make them suspicious automatically. He ignited the red blade, and before any of the 5 Siths could realize what happened, he cut them all down.
Okay.
I unclip my weapon and hold it tightly in my hand and ignite it, and in that time, none of them noticed what I was doing. Even though they stood up and looked directly at him to greet him.
Right. The Sith are also dumb.
Uh-huh. His eyes burned yellow with rage, anger, and raw power as he walked up the stairs to deliver the remaining Siths to their fate. Why are you angry at them? They did nothing to you, except follow you.
Yeah, well, Salvador's kind of a psychopath.
Yeah, they followed Storm. You took over, and now they're listening to you. They haven't gone against his orders, or... I mean, I guess they kind of killed his family, but also...
Listen.
Yeah. Whatever.
Listen. He's insane.
Oh my god. A child of one of the Siths in the building came running down the hall. The girl was 8 years old and very strong in the dark side. Salvador cut her down with one downward slash from his blade. She fell to the floor with a thud. He just killed a child.
Good. Amazing.
Who's strong with the dark side. Couldn't she raise her to be your weird child wife?
Ooh.
So she could be the cunning, smart, powerful one next to you instead of your sister.
Yeah. Now he's got this weird incest thing going on now.
Potentially be like considered grooming, but also yeah, pedophilia.
Ooh, gross.
Worse than incest, I guess.
Both are bad.
Yeah, but pedophilia I think would be worse in my
opinion. Yeah.
Anyways, hopefully it doesn't go incest either, but
I'm really hoping we don't suddenly.
They're probably not.
Suddenly incest would be shocking.
Yeah, they'd be in the description usually.
Oh yeah.
As like a trigger warning. I don't know.
True.
But I guess they don't have like violence or whatever, unless that's in the rating. I don't know. Anyways, he continued his pace down the hall. Several other Siths who had heard the thud came running into the hallway, feeling that something was wrong. The 4th Sith activated their lightsabers and charged Salvador, so Mary's gonna be alone.
Of course.
They were weak, pathetic, and deserving of death. Salvador cut them down within 10 seconds of their charge. The hallway floor was quickly filling with a river of red blood. There was only one more Sith in the building. Mary. She would not be so easy to kill. She was highly skilled, and only second to Salvador when it came to control over the Dark Force. She would be hard, but Salvador was confident that he could prevail over her. He would prevail over her. He heard a footstep land in the pool of blood behind him, and turned to greet the sound. Mary stood at the other side of the hallway, looking at the carnage that lay before her. She slowly looked up into Salvador's yellow eyes. Why couldn't he just take Mary as his weird wife?
Maybe he will.
Not even weird, but
I don't know.
I think she was just normal, but I have no idea.
Hey, whatever you want it to be.
You did this? she asked in a whisper.
The time for change has come, Mary, Salvador replied, turning fully to face her. The Sith have turned into half-minded fools. It's time we got back to the old ways, the ways that will ensure our survival. He held out a hand. I am offering you a place in my new order, he offered.
Your new order? She repeated.
I will wipe out what the Sith had become and rebuild it more powerful than it was before, he shouted back. I am offering you a supreme place in the new order and the new world.
You killed Darth Storm. She whipped out her lightsaber and a red blade flared into existence. The Jedi didn't kill him. You did, she realized. A smile spread over Salvador's face.
He was an old fool who deserved to have his throne ripped out from below his ass, he snapped back. He was a fool blinded by age and pride.
If you try to destroy the Sith and someone succeed... What? Who will fight the Guardians? She yelled. Who will see to the Jedi's downfall?
I will.
The Guardians will.
He answered. I will see to that all.
How do you plan to do it with no army? She shouted.
Is it better to have 50 soldiers who know only basic fighting skills, or is it better to have 10 soldiers who have supreme fight skills and power?
Why not both?
He asked. The strong weed out the weak, and it falls on the strong to see that the weak do not hold them back. I have become strong, stronger than any other Sith in the Order. I will be all that is needed for the Sith to win. One ultimate warrior, instead of an army of stupid, pointless peasants, he explained.
No, that's not how that works.
That is not how that works.
You're crazy. Yes. She charged forward, her feet splashing in the increasing river of blood. There's not that much blood in 5 people.
There shouldn't be blood anyways. Lightsabers cauterize wounds.
Yeah, that too. She made a strike for Salvador's head, but he easily blocked it and pushed it harmlessly aside, so she's really not that strong.
No.
She jumped backwards and dipped her hand in the river of blood on the ground. Using her finger, she drew a weird-looking symbol on the wall and slammed her palm against it. What?
Oh, anime.
Does the Force do this?
No.
Using, like, sigils?
No, this is not the Force.
The symbol began to glow when several sharp spikes started jutting out of the walls, heading right towards Salvador. How is that going to do anything? Okay.
I don't know.
Salvador turned his back to her and started to run down the hall. The spikes were now shooting out at him, and he spun around as he reached the end of the hall. Using swift, fast, accurate swipes, he cut the spikes down before they could reach him. Then a massive pillar of metal formed out of the wall to his right and shot forward, sending him flying through the wall to his left. This is not how the Force works.
This is not the Force.
It's like alchemy.
Yes.
But also, no.
Yes.
Oh, I guess. I see. I didn't even see that.
Yes. So it's not the Force.
He smashed through the wall, rolled on the ground, and leapt back to his feet. Sith alchemy! Mary's voice said from behind the wall. You've never had a fight like this before. Alchemy is not that. Okay, whatever. This is weird to add in, but okay.
Yeah.
Salvador gathered up the dark side and unleashed it in a massive explosion of raw power that ripped the whole second floor of the building apart. Also, she drew one sigil or whatever in blood, and it did all of this.
Yeah.
And she kept doing different things with it.
Yeah.
Usually it'd be like, hey, this symbol does this one thing, and then you have to redo it to do it again, or to do other things. Whatever. An electrical storm shot out from his body, and he let it fly in all directions. He could feel Mary running down the steps of the first floor, and smashed his way through the floor of the second floor, and landed in front of the front door. What? Oh, so they were on the second floor, and he smashed through it and landed at the first on the first floor?
Yes.
Okay. She stopped as she dive rolled off the stairs as they collapsed behind her. So she's trying to, like, escape, or what?
I guess.
Why? You're fighting him, and you apparently think you can take him on.
Apparently not.
Whatever. She rolled on the ground and quickly recovered to her feet, flicking her lightsaber back on.
Raw power, Salvador said with a grin on his face. You've never had a fight like this before.
Ha, throw it back in her face.
Mary ran forward and made several attempts to cut off Salvador's arms, but Salvador pushed each blow aside with his blade. He parried an attack aimed at his ribs and spun around on his foot till he was behind her. He reached his right arm around Mary's neck from behind and clamped his hand over her throat. He lifted her into the air and slammed her on the ground, creating an indent on the floor as her back slammed against it. At the moment of impact, her hand released its grip on her lightsaber, and it clattered to the floor and shut down. Salvador stood up to his full height and looked down at his now greatly weakened opponent. He placed his booted foot on her throat and started to apply steady pressure. She started to gasp for air and tried to move her hands, but her body would not respond to her commands anymore. Your back is probably broken. Mm-hmm. Salvador smiled at her pain. "That offer I told you about," he began. "It's now expired." Ba-dum-bum. Salvador started to apply more pressure to end the woman's pathetic life when he was thrown forward by something. He smashed through the rubble of the broken staircase. He jumped up and sent the rubble flying in all directions in an angry display of brute force. He spun around and saw Kleb, the man who had rebuilt his lightsaber for him, standing in front of Mary, who still lay motionless on the ground.
That one figure in the room was Kleb. And who was Kleb? Were you Kleb?
You were Kleb. You get all the new voices.
What was Kleb?
Oh.
I know I
No, he didn't have a voice. You gave him the gravelly voice.
Did he not have a voice before?
No, it just mentioned his name.
Oh, okay. I give you a new lightsaber. No, that's not what it was. I give you a new lightsaber, and this is what you do with it? He asked, shaking his head. Tisk, tisk, my friend. He pulled out a long lightsaber hilt and ignited the twin blades.
Ah, Darth Maul?
Now I must relieve you of that weapon.
I did not sense you here, Salvador stated, taking a few steps forward.
I was using Sith alchemy to keep my presence hidden, as I normally do. Yeah, that's not... Okay, no, that's not how that works. As it turns out, my routine has given me the upper hand, he added, spinning his twin blades and leaping forward. Salvador blocked one of the blades of his new enemy's weapon. Kleb twisted his body and his lightsaber to attack with the other blade. Salvador brought his blade over to stop the second blade, then back again to stop the first, then again and again and again. Salvador had never fought a double-bladed weapon before, but found it to be not as hard as it seemed. The two blades were connected to the same hilt. As long as you knew where one blade was, you knew exactly where the other one was at the same time. Is he gonna make that not be a thing anymore?
I don't know.
That'd be funny.
That would be neat.
Salvador's blade and one of Kleb's clashed and held their connection. Salvador thrusted his blade upwards, forcing Kleb's arms to go upwards as well. Salvador landed a kick to his chest that sent him stumbling backwards. He quickly recovered. "Very good," Kleb commented. "You fight a double-bladed weapon well." He adjusted his grip on his weapon. "However," he unclipped his double-bladed
Oh, okay.
to reveal two separate lightsaber hilts.
Oh.
"This is not the same." So that was a lot of random words in between the one line of dialogue.
Yeah.
2 words, he commented. 4 more words, a random comment. However, he did this.
More words.
Yeah. Salvador watched in surprise as the double-bladed hilt split apart into 2 lightsaber hilts. The 2 separate lightsaber blades, they've said it 3 times now.
Yep.
Now the fight just got to another level of hard. Unlike the double-bladed weapon, 2 lightsaber were extremely hard to fight if the person using them was skilled with them.
Is he skilled with them?
Probably.
We'll see.
They can move freely, not being restricted by being connected. Great. Salvador began to doubt that he could win. Kleb, as if sensing his opponent's sudden doubt, leapt forward and unleashed his 2 lightsaber fight style on his enemy. Salvador was immediately put on the defensive, being pushed back further and further. Have you not trained to fight against someone with 2 lightsabers?
I guess
in
not.
the past 8 years?
He said he's never dealt with it before.
I know, but why wouldn't you train that? No, none of the Jedi use 2 lightsabers, even though we know that people can use 2 lightsabers at the same time.
Some of the Jedi use 2, I think.
Yeah. So, none of them use it, so I don't need to train it.
Huh.
But they do. And you do. Did I read that line? The put on the defensive, being pushed back further and further. He was barely able to keep his 1 lightsaber blade, blocking Kleb's 2 lightsaber blades. Salvador was thrown backwards by a massive force push from Kleb. He smashed back through the rubble of the collapsed second floor and smashed through the last wall on the first floor and landed in the back alley behind the building. What? So there's just the rubble filling the room from the upper floor.
I guess.
He just went through the wall outside the building now? Okay. He rolled to his feet, breathing heavily from his defense that he was barely able to keep up, and watched as Kleb walked towards him. "I can't lose here," he thought. I won't lose. I know they mean lose.
Oh, I know.
Salvador dropped his lightsaber to the ground and thrust his 2 palms forward and released a massive wave of dark side energy at his opponent.
Gah! He screamed in rage. as his opponent started to hold off his wave of energy.
Is Kleb that strong in force?
I guess. This is the only time he's done anything.
Yeah. So he uses force alchemy. He also uses 2 blades. He can rebuild lightsabers. And now he's super strong.
Yeah. I'd believe it. The whole apartment building started to cave in on itself. Salvador snatched up his lightsaber while keeping a wave of dark energy going as long as he could and dashed forward. He caught Kleb off guard while guarding against the dark energy that Salvador had unleashed. In one slash, Salvador took off Kleb's right arm. He spun around and slashed off his left arm.
Okay.
Kleb screamed in pain as he fell to his knees. Salvador rounded back and cleaved his legs off as well. That's gruesome.
Tis but a flesh wound.
That's what. Is that gonna be Kleb's thing? He's like, just a flesh wound, my lord. The building around them continued to collapse, but Salvador did not care. He stood before his armless and legless enemy, breathing hard, more out of rage than exhaustion. Kleb whimpered in pain on the ground in front of Salvador's feet. He's not dead.
You were breathing in from exhaustion like 2 minutes ago, and then you did a bunch of stuff.
Whimpered in pain? Would he not be screaming?
Yeah.
Your arms and legs get cut off and you're not screaming in agony?
Yeah.
Ay, 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 ay. Salvador stared at his enemy, absorbing his fear and pain to rejuvenate him. He flicked his blade and took off Kleb's head. He then walked over to Mary, who was still on the floor, too beaten and hurting to move, and stabbed his blade through her skull.
Nice.
He then force dashed out of the building as it finished its cave-in.
Yeah?
Why not just let it collapse on her? Why not just let the building collapse on Mary and let that be that?
Because he wants to ensure that she's dead instead of...
Okay.
She'd probably come back if he just let the building
I
collapse.
guess. He headed towards the hotel where the rest of the Sith were. He arrived and found 10 other Siths rounding up Travis and Mark's bodies. Lord Salvador, yes, it's you. I'm so sorry.
Whatever, it's whoever.
How did you do
Lord
it?
Salvador, they greeted, but stopped suddenly. Why is your rope bloody? Hey, they're back at the hotel. They're injured. Hey, one's cut in half and the other one's decapitated.
We're rounding up their bodies.
And
Lord Salvador.
And, like, hey, I just told you they're injured and I need you to go get them. Their
They're done.
injury is they're dead. Hey, why is your rope bloody? Because clearly you're not destroying us. That answer came in the form of Salvador's lightsaber cutting into his chest. The other 9 Siths ignited their blades. He took out 5 of them in 10 seconds earlier, and 5 more before they could... 4 of them in 10 seconds. 5 more before they could figure out what was happening.
Yep, but now he's like... Now he's just fighting.
Now the other 9 have time to ignite their blades. But Salvador's anger and rage gave him too much power for them to have any fighting chance against him. They charged him, and he unleashed a wave of Sith lightning that took out 5 of the 9 Siths. He cut down the remaining 4 with ease, precision, and brutality. The hotel room was now almost completely covered in crimson red blood. Salvador shut down his lightsaber and clipped it back on his belt and jumped out of the apartment building to the parking lot below. He stared down at Joe's headless body, then to his head that lay a few inches from his body.
I will take care of Stacy, he said to the head. I will change her into what I have become, a Sith legacy.
So the body's just been laying on the ground for the past,
day. Or not less than a day.
How long has Stacy been in that cave, though, before she woke up?
Hours, maybe a little bit. I don't know.
I guess.
Next chapter. You can do the thing.
Chapter 26, Containment. The NYPD converged on the hotel building, responding to several disturbance calls.
Oh, now the NYPD is getting involved?
7 hours at this point, probably.
Ay, ay, ay.
They pulled up in squad cars and undercover cars. Why are they undercover cars? Emergency lights blinking and sirens blasting. They're not undercover anymore. They pulled up into the parking lot and stopped just short of a headless body on the ground. Several officers got out of their squad cars, drew their weapons, and slowly walked towards the hotel building. They slowly walked up to the stairs to the second floor of the building. When the officers reached the balcony of the second floor, they slowly moved towards the middle room of the floor where blood was moving onto the balcony. When they reached the room and rounded the corner, several officers turned away out of the room and threw up. The room was covered in blood and body parts. This was not a murder, it was a massacre. Several black vehicles pulled up through the night into the parking lot, and black-suited men stepped out. They walked over to the detective in charge of the scene and pulled out a badge. NSA, you and your men are to evacuate the premises at once, the suited man ordered.
Do you want to alternate with these randos, or
I mean,
doesn't matter? Do you just want to read a chapter?
Sure. You can be the detective, I guess.
NSA, the detective repeated. What's the meaning of this?
I am Special Agent Smith, the man replied, under the direct control of the United States government and President of the United States. You and your men are to leave this scene at once, he ordered in a harsh voice. The detective reached into his coat and pulled out a cell phone.
I'm calling the captain. He put the phone to his ear. Static.
We have to keep the situation contained, so we've jammed all cellular phones then. No? There's no people on this scene. No one knows that this happened except potentially whoever called the police.
Right.
But they didn't even say there was people standing around.
Look, man, they're just doing things.
There would be.
I think this is the Guardians.
Possibly. It probably is. The agent Smith replied, Now evacuate now, or we'll have you and all your men arrested for obstruction of justice and insubordination, he ordered again. The detective glared at the agent, but decided that he had no other choice.
We're leaving, he called to his men. Leave this scene to these guys. He indicated Agent Smith and his man.
Okay. Pass this message to your officers, Smith added. You and your men are not to talk about what you've seen here today. If information of this is leaked, we'll personally come after you, he explained.
Is that a threat? The detective shot back.
No, Smith answered. It is an order, and a consequence should that order be disobeyed, he added. When the police were all gone from the scene, the Guardians moved to the room where the bloody mess is located. So yes, it is the Guardians. They started to take photographs and identify which body parts belonged to which person. Why? The floor of the room was now a massive pool of crimson blood.
I'm reading ahead. Oh, it's What we got? A voice asked Smith.
Sir, Smith replied, saluting for a moment, we have not yet been able to identify which organization the dead bodies belong to yet. Aren't they all in, like, black robes?
Yeah.
He stated, We are working on reassembling the bodies. Rick bent down next to the head of the body in the parking lot.
This is the man that took me to a rundown hotel. The Jedi that took me to a rundown hotel, he said, poking the head slightly. Pity, I kind of liked him. Rick made his way up to the main scene and stepped into the doorway, surveying the bloody mess. He looked at the blood room. A dark-skinned man stepped beside him. Pollen, Rick greeted, not taking his eyes off the mess in front of him.
Let me or you?
Oh God, I don't remember. Well, you were Storm, right?
Yes.
And Storm fought Pollen?
I think so, so it was probably you.
Fuck. I don't remember Pollen's voice. Quite a mess you have here, Pollen said, surveying the scene. Can you tell me which organization these people belong to? Rick asked. Sith, Pollen answered simply. All of them? Yes, Pollen answered. Every one of them is a Sith. Have the Jedi decided to change their game up and start hunting down the Sith? Rick asked. No, Pollen answered. The Jedi are being patient. The Jedi are being of patience, and who do not believe in mindlessly killing like this.
I'm assuming it was beings of patience.
Yeah.
And they used patience instead of patience.
He explained. A Sith is responsible for this. Yes. I like to imagine Pollen looks like Oscar Wilde in my head.
Okay.
Just the way he's talking and then like the motions I'm doing to capture the spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Rick turned fully to Pollen. A Sith!
Plain.
to plain. A Sith, he repeated, surprised. Yes. Why would a Sith butcher his own like this? Rick asked. I know they were selfish beings, but this seems to be something that was possible. But highly unlikely, he explained. I wouldn't expect you to understand being a normal human, Pollen replied. The Sith seek power over everyone else. If the price of power is killing your own kind, many Siths would do it, he explained.
Was Pollen a Jedi?
No, he's a Sith.
Is he a Sith?
He's a Sith who betrayed the Sith.
Yeah, that one. Okay, yes.
However, he added quickly, the Sith responsible for this has extreme power. How can you tell? I can feel the dark side still fresh in the air, Pollen answered.
Dark-sided. I don't know why I just said that now. Even though they said dark side however many times.
Is he a Christian? That's one of my favorite videos we've ever made. We made a movie. What an iconic video. Watch it. It's strong, thick, and extremely powerful. One Sith was responsible for this, and that one Sith is extremely powerful and skilled, he said, closing his eyes and taking a deep breath. Perhaps one of the most powerful Siths aside from myself. If this Sith is as powerful as you say, then he must be killed, Rick replied, looking back at the scene. You're the most powerful in the Force I have seen, Pollen. I'm so sorry.
From like 3 feet away.
Rick added, I want you to hunt down this Sith and kill him before he becomes more powerful than you. Pollen glared at Rick. I do not take orders from you, he snapped. I have only helped you because I hate what the Sith have become. They have become foolish, arrogant, and too dependent on each other, he explained. I feel like the Sith who did this may feel the same way as I do, he added. So you won't hunt him down, then? Rick asked. I will hunt him down, Pollen assured him. But I will do it because I wish to meet this Sith and talk to him.
Sir, a guardian said, walking up to Rick, we have another massacre scene. All Force-sensitive humans in an apartment building that has collapsed, he explained.
I see, Pollen said more to himself than any other. What do you see? Rick asked. This is not a quest for power the Sith is on, Pollen stated.
Yes,
then what is the Sith doing? An extermination, Pollen stated. He's killing every single Sith.
For power.
A Sith exterminating his whole kind? Rick repeated. Such bloodthirsty monsters. He walked to the stairs and back down to the first floor. Pollen stood in the doorway, his hand on his chin, scratching his beard in thought. Oh, really? I could guess he could have a goatee. I'm picturing him with, like, a really gay mustache. And, like he always has a hand up.
Or, like, a handlebar mustache?
It doesn't connect in the middle. It's just, like, a dash and a dash.
Like one of those French waiter mustaches?
Yeah, like a super gay French waiter mustache. And he's just, like, one hand is always up and floating. After a minute of deep thought, he whipped around, his cloak flapping behind him, and jumped down to the parking lot. He walked past Joe's body. He stopped only long enough to say, Now see your foolishness. Now you see your foolishness, brother. He walked off into the night and vanished.
Gasp.
Brothers.
Was he actually brothers, or is it just a thing?
I don't know. Oh, we can totally do this.
Yee.
Yee.
Chapter 27. Purity.
Like a purity ring.
I guess. Stacy's purity of soul.
Stacy's a virgin.
Hopefully not
like
that
a
one.
virgin. Touched for the very first time.
Hopefully not that one. Because that'd be a weird reference in this.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm just
we've
like...
only got Stacy and Mike.
I know.
Salvador.
I'm like praying there's no
/
incest thing. I'm praying.
There's probably not going to be. Which I'm glad for. But it kind of makes it feel like there's going to be, even though there's not. Okay, I'll start reading. Why not? Stacy sat in the corner of the dark cavern, completely alone, wet and cold. She sat with her legs drawn in towards her chest, her knees pointed towards the rock ceiling, shaking. That's how that works.
Yeah.
Salvador had not returned for at least a day now.
Oh, God.
It was extremely hard. If not, she'd be dead, honestly. Wet in a cave, she'd be hypothermia.
Yeah, she's a Jedi. She's got power.
I guess. But even then, they had to, like, sleep inside the
I know.
body of... I mean, that was colder.
That was Hoth.
Yeah, it was Ice Planet. Anyways, it was extremely hard, if not impossible, to tell time in the cavern. There was no... So it's probably, like, 2 hours.
Right. She says, it's been days.
It's been a day. At least a day. There was no sunlight to signify day or night. No clock. No way to tell time.
No cock.
Her whole life had been turned upside down when Salvador told her that her brother that she had believed dead for the past 8 years. That he had killed Joe. What? Told her that he was her brother. That she had believed dead for the past 8 years. That he had killed Joe. And the Jedi had lied to her for so long. She could not help but feel bitterness towards the Jedi for keeping the secret from her for so long.
For so long.
They had lied to her and said her brother was dead along with the rest of her family. You kind of believe them, or with seeing no proof at all. He was someplace completely different. And like, what happened to my brother? Oh, he's dead too.
You're like, okay. Well.
Okay. Are we gonna bury him? Nope. If he lied about something as important as that, what else did they lie about? Has her life for the past 8 years been led by nothing but lies?
Yes.
Yeah, pretty much. What if the Jedi told her that was true? She was thrown into an endless cycle of confusion. Her thoughts turned to Salvador. Your salvation. Haha. No.
Oh my god. Salvador, savior?
Yeah. Gasp. Illuminati symbol.
Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. The X-Files.
Her older brother, who has changed completely the past 8 years. He was no longer the loving, caring brother she looked up to and occasionally messed with. He was now a person of power, principle, and the dark side. Oh,
you know, you can't say occasionally messed with when we've been making incest comments.
Yeah. Between the last week's chapters and this week's chapters, I looked back through it, and Stacy is 21 at this point.
Got it. Look, the incest thing just seems so possible because this is not a spoiler, by the way, because it is established in the first episode of Game of Thrones. Like, this is not a spoiler. You find this out almost right away. And this came out, 7 years ago, and the books were out in the 90s. Yeah. But incest has been on my mind because Jaime and Cersei Lannister... have the blonde ones have an incestuous relationship, and it's just I'm dealing with content where that exists, so I'm not even I'd be surprised, but I'm desensitized.
It'd be a wild turn for this fanfic to be taken, but
yeah, that's basically what I'm saying. Is that's why I keep bringing it up.
It's had wild turns. So,
yes.
Yeah. Here's just this. Oh yeah. So how old was she in the first chapters of
8 years before 21?
8.
Young.
20 minus 7, 13. She's 13. Okay, great. He's now a person of power, principle, and the dark side. He doesn't have principles. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I was like, what's his principle? Power?
Over her years with the Jedi, she had heard rumors about a Darth Salvador quickly growing within the Sith ranks. She'd heard that the Salvador had the potential to change this whole war. He had a stronger connection to the dark side than any other. Wasn't he equally balanced in the dark and the light?
He was, and now he's super in the dark.
Yeah. Most of the Jedi believed to be nothing more than a fabrication created by the Sith to try and bestow fear into the Jedi. Stacy had actually started to believe that the Salvador did not exist, that he was just a ploy, a bluff. But that changed when she met him face to face, and he revealed himself to be her older brother, Mike. She continued to sit in the corner against the hard rock wall, shivering violently. The only sound in the cavern was her breathing and the sound of her teeth chattering. And the water dripping.
Yeah.
Unless that stopped randomly. She did not know who she was more angry at, Salvador or the Jedi who had lied to her for a long time. She did know one thing. She could not return to the Jedi and pretend that nothing had happened. If she ever saw the Jedi again, she would have to confront them about their lie and false stories of that night. Her stomach growled. She had not eaten anything since she was taken here.
Her stomach.
She was starving and very thirsty. She drank the water puddles that formed on the ground from the ceiling from time to time, but the water was filled with dirt and was not healthy, and it's also probably in the ocean and salty.
Ugh, gross.
But I guess it might have gone through dirt in the island. If it's,
it's just gross.
I'm not sure if it's an island. It might be an island. Yeah, gross. She did not know what he was going to do to her. Several scenarios started to run through her mind of things that he might do to her. Kill her, torture her for information, use her, then kill her. There were too many possible things for her to draw any solid conclusions off of. That's 2 things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Either kill me,
torture me for information, and then get the information and kill me. So many options.
So many options. She could feel her eyes start to sting as a tear ran down her face. Her older brother was... BTS, love yourself tear. Her older brother was doing this to her. He was putting her through this hell of loneliness and suffering. Does she know what suffering is?
I guess.
I mean, it's isolation.
Yeah. But, fucking
I guess.
No! She whispered to herself. He's not my brother! He's someone else!
He's not my brother, so now I'm free to fall in love with him. No.
Yikes. The sound of footsteps brought her thoughts back to the present. She stayed sitting down, her body too numb from the cold to stand up. She watched as a patch of the rock wall moved aside to create an opening, and she saw Salvador's figure appear in the darkness outside the cavern. She heard something hit the floor in front of her. Let the bodies hit the floor. She slowly reached out to where she heard the object land. Fuck. Sorry. She watched as oh my god. She gripped something that was was cylinder in shape and metal. Ooh, a dildo. She pulled it close and almost jumped up as she hit a switch and a red blade ignited in front of her.
It'd be funny if she had...
through her head. Like, oh no!
Yeah, going in the wrong direction. Or like, through the chest or something.
Right? Oh my god. She stared at the crimson blade for several seconds before shutting the blade down. She stared at the figure in the opening, unable to say a word to him. "Your new weapon," he finally said. Stacy was silent. "The Jedi have betrayed you and kept your only family member from you," he went on, his voice echoing off the rock walls in the cavern. "I can feel your bitterness towards them, your anger at them for lying to you and keeping you from me. If the Jedi had not lied to you and said that I was dead, our lives would not be like this," he explained. "If they had not kept that secret, then you would not have been alone for the past 8 years, and I would not have become what I have become." She continued to stare at the figure. "You can be angry at me if you want," he said. "Your anger at me is well placed, but do not forget the cause of that anger, the Jedi. They kept your only living family member secret from you. In that act, they made sure you were alone, and that I became what I became.
He is
the Jedi.
What he has become, and then he became what he became."
Yeah. Look, everyone likes to talk in circles. Yeah. Everyone in this fic likes to talk in circles. "The Jedi have betrayed me before you. They left me for dead. They said that they would help me control this ability we have, but when the Guardians came, I was left alone. The Sith were there to protect me, not the Jedi," he explained. "The Jedi did lie to me," she whispered, looking down at the cold rock ground she was sitting on. "Yes, they did," he replied. "They held you back from your brother, and in that act they allowed him to die alone." He walked forward and put his hand on Stacy's shoulder. "Place your anger at the source, not the result," he whispered to her. His face was hidden by the darkness of the cavern, but she could tell that his face was sympathetic. She gripped the handle of the lightsaber she had been given tightly. To follow someone like Salvador would be a betrayal of everything she had learned and lived in the past 8 years. It would be a betrayal to the Jedi, her family for the past years, a family that lied to her about her real family. "You have a choice," he said, removing his hand from his shoulder and taking a step back. Salvador pulled something out of his robe. He ignited a blue lightsaber and called the red one he gave her to his other hand. He ignited the red blade. He placed the 2 lightsabers on the ground, both still activated. The glow from the red and blue blade dimly illuminated Salvador's face. His face was serious and hard. "You can go back to those who have lied to you and made you feel alone," he indicated the blue blade. "Or you can come with me, someone who knows your pain and understands your anger, someone who can give you what you want most, them to pay for doing that to you," he indicated the red blade. "Your choice," he repeated. "If you choose the Jedi, I will let you go back to them. If you choose me, then I will teach you all that I have learned and allow you to be truly free," he told her. "The choice is yours alone." He took a step away from the 2 blades. She stared at the red and blue glow of the blades. If she chose the blue blade, she would be going back to those who have repeatedly lied to her and kept her from her brother. If she chose the red blade, she would be leaving behind everything the Jedi had taught her and immersing herself in the teachings of her brother, Salvador. The choice weighed hard on her mind. She stared at the blue blade for several seconds before some type of hallucination began to form. Out of the glow of the blue blade, Joe's appeared over the blade. It was some type of miniature version of him.
Help me, Obi-Wan.
He was see-through,
You're my only hope.
like a ghost. She was unclear whether Salvador noticed. His face was masked once again by the darkness. All she could see was his outline facing her. "Don't fall like he has," the ghostly image of Joe told her. "Don't betray all you have worked for." Everything I have worked for?" she repeated. "How can I be sure that all you've told me isn't a lie?" she asked. "You lied to me about my only living family member. He told me he was... You told me he was dead, and because of your lie, I was not able to save him from falling." "His fall was inevitable. No. His heart longed for revenge too much for it to hear the true call of the Force. That peace is supreme, and cannot be achieved through raw power and feelings like revenge," Joe replied.
The Guardians killed his family, I forgot.
"If you had not lied to me, I could have found him years ago, and we could have had a life as brother and sister," she blurted out. "You stole what remains of my life. You kept it secret." "For your own good," Joe shot back. "Look at what your brother has become. He has become something inhuman, something monstrous, a creature of hatred that it only knows how to kill, not save," he explained. "I could not let you follow his fate." Here's my question.
Yeah.
If Salvador can't see Joe, does she just hear Stacy shouting into the cave? Like, how does this scene play out from his end?
Yeah, he's just standing there.
He's just kind of like, "Oh shit, my sister's fucking bonkers, dude."
You might be able to see him, probably. Possibly. If he's there as like a force.
I don't know. It's so... It's so bizarro.
Yeah.
Oof.
Where were you?
"For your own good, I could not let you follow his fate." You don't know that!" she shouted back. "We both could have escaped from this life. He could have been saved from the dark side, and I could have been with my brother, the last of my family." The outline of Darth Salvador was still. "Please, Stacy," Joe said, "don't follow your brother down this path. It will only lead to your own destruction as it will him." "You don't know that!" she shot back. "You have always been a child of purity, of pure heart."
He was a brat.
He replied. "Don't let him destroy that purity that you have had your whole life. Don't let him taint it like this," he pleaded.
She wasn't any different than a normal child. Oh, she's so pure. No.
Yeah. She buried her head between her cold knees.
She was debating on why protecting the Guardians instead of just letting the Sith kill them.
Yeah.
So pure.
Yeah, I don't know. She buried her head between her cold knees. "Just leave me alone," she whispered. "I'm so confused." "Please don't let him destroy you," he continued to plead. "Shut up," she whispered. "Don't let him. Shut up! I beg of you. I have thought of you as a daughter. I don't wish to see you go through this." "Shut up!" She snatched up the red lightsaber and cut the blue one in half.
Nice.
Oh my god, she's choosing the dark side. Mm-hmm. She stood there in the darkness of the cavern, holding the red-bladed lightsaber in her hand. She was breathing hard out of anger and rage that had caused her to react the way she did. She turned her head enough to see Salvador's outline in the darkness. He had not moved an inch since he stepped away from the two lightsabers. "Have you made a choice?"
Clearly.
Salvador asked. Stacy glanced at the red blade in her hand. "Yes!" "Well?"
"Why are you asking? She's holding red blade and she cut the other one in half."
I think he's being like, "I need to hear you say it, bitch."
I guess.
"I will join you, brother," she answered. "Then come on," he said, walking out of the room. "Your new home awaits, my apprentice." She closed down her lightsaber and followed Salvador out of the cavern. She would learn power now, power that she would use in her own way.
Nice. We should call it.
We should call it? Yeah, we'll call it. So.
Unless you want to do like.
Nah. We'll just stick with under an hour for now.
Cool.
Anywho, that's what we're calling it for today.
Lots of things happened.
I feel like this is a good cinematic ending to end on anyways.
Yeah, it's good.
like, ooh, what's gonna happen now that she's chosen the dark side? Guess you have to tune in next week, right? That's how we get you on this show. That's how we do it.
That's how we roll.
That's how we roll. Cool. So, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I have to burp. I'm so sorry. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a like. Subscribe if you haven't already. We have awesome new content that comes out every day, and Fanfiction Friday is every Friday. Hey. Click on the bell notification if you want to get hot, sick, nasty notifications every time we upload something, which you probably want, right? I love the YouTuber spiel because you can give it as sarcastically as you want, and like, because like everyone knows what it is because every YouTuber does it. Anywho. Just thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you have a fic that you want us to read on the show, please leave it down below and we'll probably read it. Why not? And yeah,
unless we have like some huge moral obligation. But
yeah, unless it's like morally like we can't, but otherwise like we'll probably read it.
Yeah.
But yeah, until next time, stay awesome, read more smut, which we will get back to with this show. We will read just like disgusting porn.
We should, yeah. Maybe as an actual lesbian.
I am into some. I was thinking. I'll tell you later. But anyway, yeah. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we will see you next week with more of Star Wars: A New Galaxy. Bye.
Bye.